Call the meeting in order. Chair will be absent today, so I'll be pulling in for her. Let's do a roll call attendance. Malcolm, I'm here. Jonathan, here. And Pedro, there.
Here.
And absent is Jeremy Higa and Brandon Nelson. Formatted, ready for minutes, projects, formatted, we move to minutes. Approval of minutes, June 26th meeting. As amended, so moved. Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? It's all approved. We move on to the fourth item quickly here. We got 30 seconds. 53 Brookside Road, site plan review of proposed ground mounted solar energy array greater than 750 square feet in the R2 zone of the advisory camp. Proposal is by right for section 321(4), E7 and 9.12 of the zoning bylaw. So we conducted a site visit today at 5 p.m. Came back from, and I'll invite the guest to introduce projects to the public.
We also have online, the project engineers, Jack, and Matt Cole, so I don't know. Yeah, who wants to start? If you want to talk, just make sure you all identify yourselves and,
Jack, can you hear me?
If that'll be them.
If you want to go ahead and start.
Okay. So I'm Jackie from Beals and Thomas. We submitted the application on behalf of Solar Collective, who is the applicant, and we also have Matt Cody, my colleague, and then obviously Justin is attending in person. So I'll just give a quick overview of the project, and then the three of us will be hopefully able to answer whatever questions you all have. So as you mentioned, the project is at Camp Eisner on Brookside Road. It's located in the R2 zoning district. Am I able to share my screen?
yeah, you should be able to.
Let's see.
As you're speaking to your plans, use your directionals east-west, north-south, instead of here, there, and over there.
Okay. So here's an aerial of the overall project. The applicant is proposing a small scale ground mounted solar array in this field to the south of the existing camp facility. The access will be through the existing driveway that comes here in like the northwest portion. It goes down, and then there's a gravel road that extends into the open field here. The array will occupy approximately 1 acre. And as you can see, it's surrounded by an extensive wooded buffer, so it shouldn't be visible from neighboring properties or roadways. There will be a little bit of tree clearing proposed on the eastern portion of the field here. You can see it a little better on here. This is where the array will be sited. That's in an effort to avoid the riverfront area that goes through the western portion of the field. So we just shifted things over a little bit. So there's a little bit of tree clearing proposed here. Once the array is constructed, there'll be a 6-foot chain link security fence around the perimeter that has a 6-inch wildlife gap, and disturbed areas will get loam and seed. There will be some grading a little bit along the edges here, but this portion of the field was also selected because it's a little bit more level. So there's less grading required. That's pretty much it, I think. This shows a little bit more the grading that will be required.
Do you have any questions since you invited today?
Yeah, so how much grading, how much is going to be cut? You know?
Matt, did you want to speak to that?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that. What was the question again?
Grading, what's the extent of the grading? How much is going to be cut?
It essentially ends up being a balance. You know, what we're proposing to cut, we're also proposing to fill to kind of level out the area. So overall, there's no import or export, it's just gonna be a balance.
There will be some cutting back here. It's minimal, we're able to look at this shed. Looks like there's about 20 feet in tree line. This is. I would say relatively accurate trait in the drawing. Then you can see the amount of gum.
So just to clarify, the talking about cutting of slopes, filling slopes, not the trees.
Yes. My answer, I'm satisfied.
Okay. But Pedro's point.
Pedro, were you talking about trees?
I was just telling you.
Okay.
The tree, that's just the only thing that I noticed anyway, that was, in any way, the talking. But it looked like it wasn't a lot of valuable trees back there. It was a field out by. Looking on the satellite, the field. It's not all.
Yeah, there's no trees in it.
Behind. But that's really it, it's relatively flat, the surface, seems like it's oriented, I think, really well for some exposure, particularly in these this time of year.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with the site plan, it's significant. So you can go through the bylaws and answer the questions from the data that provides. What's up for one time?
You got any questions?
Yeah.
Jackie, could you put up a sheet, C 4.3, I'm sure Jonathan's got a question for you.
Let me find it. Yep.
Zoom in on those contours, zoom in on those contours on the western side of the array.
Yeah, where do we stand on that? Because Justin was saying that you probably wouldn't do that.
As we were on site, we were trying to determine what was the existing topography versus what was really needed to be filled in there. It looks like you're creating a new steep slope there. Didn't know if that was required to get more solar panels in, or if the solar panels could be shifted east of where it's in.
And you're probably about 700 feet. Jackie, can you hear me?
I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, sorry. Turn my speakers up.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
So, yeah, in real time, being out there and seeing the western slope, what I'd like to do is propose pushing the rows east, as much as possible to stay away from that slope and to stay away from, as much grading and moving dirt as possible. There is a good amount of space up on that hill. Sorry, let's call it.
In this area here.
Yeah, and I think if we slide, we're only talking the 50 panels to the west. So take the first 4 rows, maybe there's, 10 or 12 panels in there that have to come west. If we could slide those, that would be best, and just maintain as little movement of dirt there as possible. So it's fairly steep. It gets a little less steep as we come south towards the roast course. And obviously, when I'm on site, or if we're on site, we start rubbing and grading, and we see what the contour looks like, then we can push a little bit of earth around and make it a flatter surface for ourselves. But my first thought would just be to slide these if we can, east.
Okay, as long as we can avoid the wetlands that are over here, I don't see that being an issue. I just know that Concom will frown upon getting much closer to these wetlands here.
100%. That was the comment that I made, is that we'd like to push east, but we have a setback that we have to maintain. So if we could use up as much as that space to the east as possible, the better off we are.
Yeah.
Obviously, south facing, we've got plenty of room to slide north if we need to do something like that. Other than that, it's, yes, it's set up very well.
Great.
So Jackie, your application mentions that there are two wellheads that are public water supplies. That are classified as public water supplies. And we have to locate those because they have a zone 1 area where you can't do anything and you have to make sure that.
Can you speak up, John?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you again.
Where do you turn it off? No, I could do it.
Well,
What's wrong from the tire?
Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Your application makes mention of two public water supplies that are wellheads that serve the camp, I assume. But they're still public water supplies and they have a zone 1 area that's indeterminate, but we need to make sure that we're not doing anything in there because you can't do anything in there. And so you have to locate those on the drawings. So we know that we're clear. It's probably not an issue, but in order for us to make that decision, we have to know that.
Okay.
I have a question.
I do have an exhibit here. If I can share my screen again, sorry. That shows where the zone 1s are. And they are to the north of the field that the work will be in. So right here where it says Housatonic is where the open field is and the wellheads are up here.
And what's the sort of orange cross hatching?
That's
represent?
the interim wellhead protection area. And then over here is the zone 2, which just clips the very entrance of the driveway.
Right, so the gold is a zone 2. But you can do it in zone 2, you just can't do it in zone.
The orange is the interim wellhead protection area.
Well, no. No, there are two different zones there. There's the zone 1 and there's zone 2.
Yeah,
Zone 1 means you can't do anything that isn't related to the water supply there, and zone 2 means you can. But there's certain activities that are prohibited, but solar panels is not one of them.
Mm-hmm. The zone 1 is the green dashes here. So they're
Okay.
outside of the limit of work.
Okay, and the other is zone 2, okay. That should be fine.
The zone 2 is actually, if you look at the top right of the legend, should have a sort of magenta hatch. And you can see it over there on the west side.
Yeah, the zone 2 only clips the very beginning of the driveway here. It's the red dashes.
And the gold that you're seeing is what they determine as a wellhead protection area. Maybe it's 100-foot radius, is that what it is?
No, it's like 400 feet there. It's a serious well. Right, there are two of them there.
But within the wellness protection area, you can work,
As long as you're in zone 2, not zone 1.
but they're outside of zone 2. Oh, no, they're outside of zone 1 and they're not even in zone 2.
That doesn't make any, I think that is the water quality protection district that they're flagging there. I think that the gold is actually the zone 2.
Well, if you look at the legend, it says wellhead protection area.
Interim wellhead protection areas, the state discusses it as follows. In the absence of an approved zone 2, I assume for that well.
Yeah.
DEP has adopted interim wellhead protection area, IWPA.
Right.
Which is the,
which is the goal.
To that.
yeah,
Okay, so
which is
that's
a protected
effective.
recharge area for that
Yeah.
public water supply well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a zone 2 for an aquifer, but it's
Yeah.
zone 2, if you will, for the wellhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're sort of talking about the same thing.
So where's the solar field in relation to this?
See where it says Housatonic, it's right.
Doesn't overlap
It's
the.
down here.
Yes, it's in the gold, but it's not in the green.
Okay. Gold being zone two, or
Zone
the
two.
outer zone, okay, which is permitted, okay.
And maybe Jackie or the team could discuss any potential, you know, does the solar field or the activity impact, recharge area for the well? You know, it's not impervious area. Could you discuss any, you know, environmental concerns with the transformers or inverters or anything? Any
Matt,
comments?
did you wanna?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess as you said, as you mentioned, like, you know, the panels aren't considered impervious. So all the recharge and everything should be the same. There's only, you know, there's de minimis impervious area being added for the pad. But again, overall, we consider it, you know, that all the open area that's out there now will be maintained. With the pads being elevated off the, with the, you know, the panels being elevated off the ground.
So you satisfied with that?
Yeah.
You'd like it included in the application?
Hmm?
You'd like for that exhibit to be included in the application, I assume?
It should be, yeah, because they mentioned it in their application.
Okay, you got anything else?
No.
Jackie, you got anything? Bye. Do you?
Mr. Hankin, is the zone 1 the same as the zone B? I should say zone A.
Zone 1 and zone A are the same, they're different water sources. One has to do with surface water supply, and the other has to do with wellheads.
And is the zone B and the zone 2 the same thing, just different water supplies?
Zone B and zone 2, yeah,
Say it again, please.
yes,
So zone B is zone 2,
For a surface, like the catchment.
like out my.
They're equivalent,
Yeah,
but they're not
yeah.
the same, yeah, they're equivalent, but they're not the same, they're the same concept, but they're not
Say it
this,
again, please, Mom.
they're equivalent. They have the same concept, so, you know, one is equivalent to an A and B is outer, but they're different sources and different dimensions.
I understand, because Chris had told me that the zone A was a 400-foot radius around the wellhead.
it depends on how much water. It depends on how they rate it based on how many people are drinking the water.
Oh, the radius depends on how,
Radius around the well.
Like the Waldorf School, their well is 220 feet of protection. This is, I tried to scale it, it's like at least 400 feet. So it's bigger, and there are two of them.
So that, Mr. Hankin, that's the zone A, and then the zone B would be outside of that 400 feet radius.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so do we want to run through the site plan?
Should.
Do you have any hand?
I will. Yeah. All right. Come on, where are you? Okay, so number one, minimize the volume of cut and fill, the number of removed trees 6 inches caliper or larger. The length of removed stone walls, the area of wetland vegetation displaced, the extent of stormwater flow increase from the site, soil erosion and threat of air and water pollution.
So we heard that they're gonna minimize the activity on this location here and instead of relocate or redesign the panels. Right? Did I hear that correctly?
And the purpose of that was to
That's really-
reduce the slope on the west side, is that?
They were filling it.
They were filling part of it.
Yeah. Because it was
So we're
sloping
going
down,
from a
yeah.
slope that's like this to one that's a little steeper. So instead, I'm just gonna keep it the same and not create, exacerbate, drainage off the site.
So, does anybody have any problem with?
I don't.
Number two, maximize the accessibility and pedestrian and vehicular safety both on the site and accessing and exiting the site. Minimize obstruction of scenic views from publicly accessible locations.
Can't see it from anywhere.
Yeah, not gonna happen. Right, see if we can. Yeah. Minimize visual intrusion by controlling the visibility of parking, storage, and other outdoor service areas viewed from the public ways or premises residentially used or zoned.
Not applicable.
Minimize glare from headlights, minimize light glare into the night sky, and minimize overspill into adjacent properties.
So is there gonna be any lighting on site at all?
They describe some lighting at the transformer and at the ingress points, I guess, but
I don't think so.
there was some lighting described in there.
Jackie, when you're mentioning anything with lighting, is that, just in reference to us tying into the existing poles? Light poles?
I think it's just like the little emergency lighting at the equipment pads.
Okay.
That's what I
I think
heard.
that was the only mention of lighting. But the arrays won't be illuminated in any way.
Good. No, that's fine. Minimize unreasonable departure from the character, materials, and scale of buildings in the vicinity as viewed from public ways and places. No view.
Well, this is certainly.
You're gonna
A
see,
deviation.
you're gonna see tops of fewer trees, that's. Minimize contamination of groundwater from on-site wastewater disposal systems or operations on the premises involving the use, storage, handling, or containment of hazardous substances.
So there's a question there. Is there gonna be any storage, battery storage?
No, so the array is going to be providing renewable energy to the camp. So because the electricity is going directly to the camp, there won't be any battery energy storage system.
So it's not hooked into the grid,
Yeah, it'll be reflected.
They're good.
so
We're gonna assume that any excess power will go into the grid, right?
well, it goes to the grid and then comes back to the camp.
Jackie, Matt? Did you hear the question?
Something about the grid, sorry.
Well,
Yes, if we're consuming, the camp is consuming all the energy on site, and if there is any excess, there would be, that would go back to the grid, which is right. And whatever that plan is with the utility. That's what they work with.
insurance client, compliance with the provisions of the zoning bylaw, including parking and landscaping. And so,
I think we need more parking.
yeah. There's only one car per solar.
Well, the only issue that I have is the exclusion of the map showing wellheads. And the wellhead buffers. Do we wanna make that a condition?
Yeah, he submitted. She's got it.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
Were there any other conditions? How about the shifting of the,
Yeah, I'd say, want to see the final site plan, the final layout, depending on how they shift the site, and then a plan showing the wellhead areas.
So should we hold off on the vote? I don't think we-
Oh, you could condition that, before,
And they should just come back before they go to building permit.
you can provide it to the board or.
Yeah, so we typically would take our final layout with you, and then that would become the basis of our structural and our electrical plan. So that all aligns, so we would not be going to a building permit with anything that was different than what we showed you. This would come first.
They can send it to the planning, I mean, if you're fine with it, planning department can get it and
Yeah,
share it with you when we
yeah,
have the
no, that's fine.
final that's ready. The building.
Sounds good.
Take it with you, Matt?
yeah, okay, yes, it is, yes.
Okay, well then.
So, I move we approve the site plan, with the condition that they provide the, the information about the, well, what do we have? Drawings, yeah, showing the wellheads and the wellhead area. And then also, that
Any
they,
changes?
show any change, the, movement of the, solar panels to the east.
Well, I wouldn't condition on that, just any changes to the drawings. Yeah.
Okay,
In case.
any changes to the drawings, all right,
Kim?
so, we got that, Kim? That's my motion.
Have a motion?
Convoluted,
I'll second.
motion.
Motion and a second. Any more discussion? Questions from the audience? All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We passed. Site plan review. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. It is 426 Park Street, Conic. Review.
I was wondering what brought Eric here.
Especially the results of the Housatonic Improvement Committee. I read for this site and the Housatonic Improvement Committee's recommendations for potential reuse of the site at 426 Park Street.
Chris, can you work my comments from the email that I sent?
Which one do you want?
Whichever one you choose, we'll go with first.
One that says design kit and
Yeah,
one that says
that's great.
bug free.
We're gonna look at both of them. So thanks for having us tonight. I hope you have had a chance to look at those files because they're there's a lot of detail. But these are floor plans that came out of the architectural charrette that we had at the end of November, where we had 8 design professionals in the room. And they doodled with the floor plan and came up with some ideas that we thought we could work with and recommend some things to the town. So the first one is by Sarah and Joe Lesh. And they basically, can I get up there and point?
You have to make sure we can get whatever you say on the record.
Okay,
Well, I'll, so
Yeah, Chris can-
try to use your direction.
okay. So, well, let me just sit and do it then. So, on the left is the first floor of 426 Park, and that's where the water is in the building. And basically, in the lower left-hand corner, there's room there for an anchor tenant and back of the house equipment and deliveries and a private dining room. And that would overlook the green area, which is an outdoor atrium that would be created by pulling the roof off the building in that triangle. And both this design and the next one suggest that we keep the wall that has the arched windows looking over the river, which is shown. Yeah, you're pointing at it right
Yeah,
now, Chris.
the hand on screen is where the river abuts the building.
Right. And then some kind of grow facility using the water source on the first floor. And.
Which is in this
Yeah.
space called grow space.
Yeah,
What does
and,
that mean?
like a hydroponic,
Oh.
business of some sort. And then between the 2 grow spaces, there's an entrance that would basically be the entrance to the building, which would be accessed from. I don't really know what, is that the east side of the building?
That's the side.
Yeah, so it really would turn the building around a little bit, because right now we think of entering that building from the lower left-hand corner, which is where there's a door.
Yep.
So that's basically the first floor, and then the second floor would be an anchor tenant above the first anchor tenant on the first floor, and then a series of studio apartments, which are shown in the blue. And then at the end of that row, a 2-story atrium that would serve the residential clients or residential residences, I should say. The same on the 3rd floor, which is shown on the right-hand side of the page. And then if you go to the 2nd page, Chris. Please. There would be a proposed 4th floor. And then the proposed 5th floor would be penthouses that have outdoor patios overlooking the river. The reason that both these designs are showing more than 20 apartments is because the expert we had there in public financing told us to get the kind of public financing that would be needed for this. you need at least 20 apartments, so they both kind of work towards that goal. So this is one design. Any response or comments about it?
Yeah, you talked about the green space as being an atrium, but an atrium has a roof,
I misspoke then. It
so
would
it's a
be,
courtyard.
it's a courtyard,
Okay,
yes,
thank you.
thank you.
So this shows possibly 4 and 5 floors. There aren't that many now, right?
Correct. There
So
are
how
few.
does,
So they're proposing that a structure be built within the existing structure and build it higher to meet the height of 410 Park Street, so it wouldn't exceed that height.
within the structure so that
So
the brick is maintained, or within the structure, can you just on the book?
within the structure, so the brick is maintained.
Especially that wall on the river is beautiful.
Comments, questions?
What is an anchor tenant in this drawing?
We don't know what the anchor tenant might be, but that could be a restaurant, it could be a store, in a shopping mall, you have like,
I know, but I'm just wondering here, because
we don't have.
we don't
anything.
have, you're not in that space yet.
No,
Okay.
boy, it would be nice if we did have somebody waiting.
I think when during the charrette, there was a lot of, what's that? Eric Gabriel, during the charrette, there was a lot of talk of what ifs, you know, so there was speaking to. Like a lettuce farm being there, some sort of farming, a brewery, distillery, artisan spaces. At one time, Berkshire Innovation Center, or whatever the proper name is, was suggesting interest, but this was just really to show possibilities. It's really just to show out the possibilities of what could happen there.
Mhm.
We found that to be useful when we did the charrette for the Housatonic School, for people to visualize. And so that was basically it, but it was fun, the charrette was a awesome thing to witness, and just people pushing around ideas, and so.
Did you record it?
We did have the Zoom, the owl going, I don't know if that recording got saved though. But
Oh, that's too bad.
yeah, but it was just, you know, for good to hear outside opinions and thoughts on that,
Mhm.
so.
So the idea is to take this and the other design, maybe other designs, and package them with the RFP and say, here's some concepts that have already been thought of in terms of, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, if the select board decides to do an RFP, our recommendation at this point is in draft form, and we'd love an RFP to be done.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than tear it down or rather than auction it.
Mhm.
We have more detail than this, I didn't wanna include it all, but this group design kit actually did a view from the end of the building, so it showed the different it showed the elevation. They even came up with a name for it, so it was really fun. So, any feedback about this design?
You said there were 7 or 8 architectural teams?
There were 8 design professionals in the room. And they kind of split into 3 teams, and one team basically saw what this team and the other team were doing and said, that's what we would propose, so we
So
consolidated it to
so you
2.
only came up with 2?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Eileen, you have a question?
Where would the parking be?
Where would the?
Parking.
So we did not limit the design professionals to that particular question. I think that when we came to this planning board prior to this, the idea that parking could be flexible was thrown out there, so we're not gonna let that constrain us at this point, Eileen.
And similarly, your main entrance on the first floor, you know, counts on using possibly accessed through another property, so.
Right.
Creative idea, but some things to be worked out, I think, with that, if a developer goes that route.
Right. I have to point, it's this little square here that says receiving. That's also an entrance of sorts, but labeled for receiving if there were a restaurant there or any kind of anchor tenant.
What is EMR?
Electrical, mechanical, and something.
Okay.
What would that be?
Relaxation.
So, by way of explanation, we had a lot of doodles on tracing paper and then we gave those to a draftsperson. So this might not be 100% of what we got, but it's the concept.
And when you say grow space, I'm understanding that a bunch of people had ideas, and so there's some place where something is growing. It's like, so, okay, so that's feeding, no pun
They
intended.
just knew about the wellhead that's there in the water and just trying to come up with creative uses of what to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah, whether it's a.
So Chris, that water again, you can't use it for, as part of the water, you can use it for commercial purpose.
Yeah, you could, presumably boil it, use it for commercial purposes. Really, but it can't be a potable drinking water source.
Fish hatchery, grow fish there.
You can grow fish, and it goes back to this wellhead question, because you'd have to own and control all of the uses in that wellhead, and the range would include like the whole building. Will include a lot of the village. And a railroad is definitely not allowed in a protected wellhead, so yeah, and that's if they actually knew where the source really was. We presume the source is way deep below the river, not up on the mill. Yeah, so a lot of obstacles in that.
Well,
Many
it
times,
would be a
in many
good-
ways, how to relax that. Restriction, but DEP restrictions for wellhead are very strict.
But it does sound like it'd be a good use for growing or some other commercial use that.
Yeah, it seems like it could be.
And I think during the day that the design professionals were together, two things came up. It could be used for a or a fire suppression system,
Mhm.
and it could be used for, what was the other thing that a gray water system. So that's kind of an interesting thing to think about.
It's actually, it cools the building right now.
Yeah.
It's the back room is noticeably cooler than the rest of the, so there might be a geothermal cooling system here.
You're writing that into the charrette?
Yeah, right. I think, around the perimeter.
So we're looking for your feedback because our next step would be to incorporate anything that you suggest or recommend in our recommendation to the select board. So we'd love your reaction to any and all of this or none of it.
Well, I'd love to see the next one, so we can see
Okay.
the contrast.
So this one was two folks from Clark Green and Beck, along with someone from Bradley Architects. And this is very similar. They didn't get into as much detail for the first floor as the previous design. But they added a proposed bridge that would restore the bridge that was there years ago. That would go over to the Muse building. And they also suggested that there be a walkway on the perimeter on the west side of the building along the river. So that people could walk along the river and then skirt the building, kind of go around the outside of the building and then go over that bridge. This one is an atrium. They suggested a glass roof that's being held up by a structure that is built within the existing footprint and then tied to the building so that it's covered. So that was different in this one. And they put more housing in on the second floor, as you can see in the middle diagram. There are apartments above the commercial space and then apartments along the east side. And again, on the third floor, more apartments. With the tenant space being the purple area that you see. A stairwell and or an elevator and or. And then Chris, if you go to the second page. Yeah. They even did a layout for a 2-bedroom apartment, so this is what they use to fit all those apartments in the space, so it actually works.
Well, this would be the
That's the
fourth
first,
floor. not the
Yeah,
first.
it's just mislabeled,
Okay.
yeah. And again, this is more than 20 apartments, so it would qualify for public financing of some sort.
but that's just one layout, but there's so many different sized rooms in this one.
They use that layout and use that size for most of the apartments. Yeah, so those are 2-bedroom apartments if you go back to the first page. The third floor is pretty much all that size, and then like apartment number 4 on the second floor is that size, so. They proved that there could be 2-bedroom apartments, and that's what they were.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Not as detailed on what kind of commercial space would be on the first floor, but again, agreeing that it should be commercial space of some sort.
Well, in any scheme, it's that ground floor that's gonna be key, I think, to the project and to the area. Because if you do want to start to generate some activity, some cultural activity around there, that ground floor is gonna be key. And this scheme, I think, for my taste is, just has more generous apartments. I don't see why we have to keep building apartments that are like little tiny, you know. Homes, I think having nice generous apartments for couples and families and starters and that kind of thing is much better than having just studio apartments. But whatever, you know, whatever scheme goes in here, is that ground floor is the key.
What was the idea behind the atrium as opposed to not having an atrium? Did they discuss that?
Mostly because the roof is gone already, it's already caved in,
Yeah, but it's,
and it's,
But a glass is covered land. Or glass up there.
yeah, why cover it? That's the.
Oh.
That's the
Um,
question.
just because, excuse me, it makes it more usable, that's all.
According to who? I mean, I think it's great, even if there's snow in there, who cares? And if it's cold, I mean, plenty of people hang out when it's cold out, and then sure, there'll be maybe a month where you can't use it, but it's a big open space. People will be walking through there.
So,
Nick's the glass fancy long possible roof.
but, doesn't the dimensional requirements for R3 apply on this?
It's for
I
Mills.
mean,
It's in the Houstonic Mills.
it's in the historic Mills overlay. I don't, are there different dimensional
They
requirements?
can come and propose whatever they want. Yeah. More or less.
The mill overlay district allows you to go right, you know, to the lines, use the old footprints.
Not up.
I think it's 50 feet, Chuck.
But in any case, if we're. opening up
You know, when I was
special
looking at
permit,
this, I was looking at it in terms of what would we need to do zoning wise to enable this?
I think if there's special permit being opened up and they say we wanna match the building next door in height. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Well, unless we had to go to town meeting and change bylaw, and make it happen, but.
So to include some language in there might not be a bad
There we
idea.
go.
There's also, you know, the Housatonic School is much higher than this building, and nobody's shot lines or anything, but.
Well, they haven't tried to add height to it though. So if you try to add height,
I'm just saying the top of the Housatonic School is probably higher than 410 Park Street. So, you know, could this building be brought up to that height? I don't know.
Really, the height is determined by grade. So,
the 4.1.2, it says specifically that dimensional requirements as set forth in 4.1.2 apply. That means they're limited to 2.5 stories.
in the overlay district,
This is the HVOD, yeah. Dimensional requirements. It says existing structures can, can meet their setback requirements, but there's no statement in there that said the height can be.
You're in the middle overlay district.
Yeah, 9.10.6 was the,
It's 9.8.
what was I in? I was in Houstonic Village.
Yeah, it should be in the middle.
So I wish somebody put me in the right direction.
Oh, just feel good. You have more to play with.
It was bad. Conf.
And
Okay, now let's look at what it really says. Okay. So the SPGA can waive or reduce the requirements from 4.1, so. Okay,
So. To pick up on what Pedro was saying, my concern is that. If you were to get an industrial tenant in there at the end of the project, it'd be terrible. You really need something, it could be a lot of small businesses, it could be workspace, it could have a coffee shop. You really want something that makes people wanna walk to the building and interact with it.
what, could I just, what are you thinking when you say industrial though? What are you thinking is bad industrial versus good industrial?
Well, someone bought it and or just used it for storage or something.
Oh, yeah,
well,
yeah, so something active and.
Well, and industrial uses don't tend to have that many employees. So.
You get the point.
Mm.
Something that's gonna serve the public in some way.
Yeah.
Ideal there. Retail, a service. You know,
Had you guys thought about that? What you'd like to see in there?
We've thought about a lot of things.
Definitely.
No, but I mean, to fill in that blank,
As far as
The
like,
anchor
speaking
spaces.
for the committee, everybody has their ideas of whether it's you know. I always refer to say Muse, which is an artist studio right on the other side of the
Mhm.
river there, and they have 30 something cubicles and some bigger spaces.
they did a
and-
nice
and they're-
job on that.
Yeah, and they're full, you
Yeah.
know, so. I think of an expansion of some carrying some art. Whether it's half of it's like art studios and coffee shop, the fact of you know, breweries seem to be a big deal, so, you know, that sort of stuff,
But because you're.
something to utilize the water, you
Yeah.
know, would excite me, but. I just any form of mixed use, that would go in there, you know. Being in the trades, there's a lot of carpenters and furniture makers that are looking for space that I hear about too, and I understand, you know, that might be considered a little heavy industry or light industry, but I think it could all incorporate in one way or another. Or even say the Berkshire Innovation Center could take up a big portion of it and still have housing upstairs and
Mhm.
maybe a coffee shop up or some sort of educational setup down there, you know. But the parking is gonna be something that would have to be navigated, obviously. But just the idea of how many people go through halts every day and there are like 4 parking spots that they've had to contend with for so many years. It's functioned and done really well there, so. I think there's, you know, somebody that's willing to come in and do this sort of project could figure out that problem, you know, if somebody ever does, you know, so.
What's the square footage of the commercial space? About.
I think the building is 39,000, so maybe 20,000 on each floor. That's.
39,000, 29,000. Footprint,
I can't remember.
that's what we get, yeah.
It's big.
Yeah, it's big, bigger than a Oak Spring Street.
And if you flip to the first design, if you don't mind.
I just want to say, I like the bridge. Do people like the bridge going across, or is that?
There's a lot of talk of trying to get a river walk in some aspect, through Housatonic and that footbridge, you know, I don't know how feasible that is, but it would be pretty awesome.
I think it would be.
Yeah. You know, so.
Yeah,
The middle
Does that
pillar is
actually
still there.
span the river?
There's a pillar in the middle that's still there from the previous one,
Oh,
so, yeah,
otherwise a pedestrian bridge?
yeah, that's my understanding, I
Oh.
know.
There's still a big door in the west side of the
Yeah.
wall.
Yeah.
Where that bridge connects.
That'd be kind of cool.
That's.
It's fun to do these things, cause I personally love spending other people's money. It's,
Even if it's only pretending.
Yeah,
So I just want to point to this, I know it's gonna be hard for people watching online, but if this space here and here were a brewery,
These,
On the
this,
first floor, yeah.
on the first floor, both these red spaces, this could be a restaurant that would serve the beer that was brewed here. So that was the idea, that this all would be kind of tied together in some way.
I can imagine walking into an entrance and seeing a big copper.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, things like going into the restaurant.
What if you can make beer from that water?
I mean, I would just encourage you to think beyond the building
yeah.
and outside the building.
Oh, yeah.
That whole area, I mean, that could be a really, really beautiful spot if it's just done with a mindset of activating it for the public.
Mhm.
And for as much public activity as possible, get more people to go and visit it and, you know, I think you could really turn that into something and maybe activate the guy to do something in the big now.
Mhm.
The view from the windows on the west side. It's gotta be one of the best views of the
Oh,
Scott
it's
River
beautiful.
in Berkshire County. It's incredible. It's incredible. It's just a really beautiful stretch of everything.
No, I just vote for a river walk as what I vote.
Yeah, the Riverwalk would be fantastic.
I want to stare at a river, you know. Let's keep, never mind. I'm sorry.
Well, I definitely think that you want to have some approach from some door entry from the south side, not from the east side. That's.
Well, I think this is a good thing to include in an RFP, if only to allay confusion like I just exhibited. You know, in terms of what can or cannot be done in the building, because, you know, you do have some flexibility. To go up.
So how are we,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So how are you thinking about the RFP?
It's really not up to us.
It's
I
not
think,
up to you
Chris,
guys.
You could
Yeah.
probably address that more easily.
I did want to say one thing. I think you mentioned there were, conceptual, you know, views of
The
height,
elevations.
not like a detail, but just showing. how the
elevations
pieces
for it?
stack. So that would also be something good to accompany these in the RFP.
Yeah.
The way the select board did the Hoosier School RFP was to, you know, talk about the history of the site. What the town's vision for the site was, and that derived a lot from the Hoosier Committee's work. And talked about the zoning. That was in place and available, and I think this would probably be similar. I'm hearing the viable walls would remain, so there's a certain amount of historic preservation to talk about here. Access to the river, public space, and these are some of the attributes that the committee and if the select board agrees to, the town want to see here and encourage people to look at the site in that way. And here are some concepts that can work in the building, we think, could possibly, from a financial perspective, cover the costs of the building. You've got 20 apartments to make you some money. Those sorts of things will be included in the RFP. And the select board ultimately would have to determine what the evaluation criteria would be. How do you judge the various, hopefully we get a lot of proposals and a lot of interest, and how do you judge what's best? Is it just on price? Is it just on design? Is it some factor
That may be something else that you all want to talk about tonight is what should the select board and the HIC look for in evaluation criteria? Because 2, 3, 4 different concepts. I don't judge what's developer. I don't judge what's best.
Well, I'll go back to the one RFP that I participated in, that was for a memorial in Tucson. For Gabby Giffords, and everybody was shot on that day. And it was, we had the location, that was good, you have the location, but it was a whole, we just almost did a, not quite a schematic design, and we just basically. All these different teams came together, and what was interesting, the judging criteria was 2 different things. We had an expert panel of people who really knew what they needed to be done, and architects and designers, but then it's also public was involved. And so you had 2 different sets of criteria, not criteria, but what did you like and why do you like it? And what would you like to see and how would you live with it? And I mean, it was a really fantastic combination. And it started with like 72 applicants and then went down to pick 4. And then they came back and met with everybody, and that was just really helpful. And then the 4 did the presentations to the community and the others. So that became a very involving, exciting experience. And then you could, in another location, you had the 4 final designs or applications posted for people to look at before they voted too. So it was quite something as a process, but really incredibly rewarding. And then you work through.
Who did the final vote? Was it some sort of community?
No, it wasn't the community. It ultimately was the community. It's the professional committee did it. And that was community representatives on that committee, along with, experts, et cetera. And everybody seemingly knew everybody pretty much. It wasn't like from outside we brought strange people in, but it was good. And, but it was basically, we had the expert committee, I'll just say, took the consideration, the voting of the town in the city actually into consideration and discussed that and had people present along to the committee as well.
When we did the Woodstock School, the select board, I think, was there a recommendation from the HIC, maybe from the planning board too, that the select board gathered? I can't remember before making the final decision. think we got involved in
Planning
it,
board
yeah.
for that. We just made a recommendation to the select board that it be mixed use with housing.
Yeah, and I can't remember if the planning board made a recommendation or not.
I don't remember that.
So that maybe I think the HIC has made themselves the expert committee on the building.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the select board would want to hear from the HIC before a final.
I think if we are lucky enough to have the multiple people interested in the site, I think having the planning board and HIC and select board and open meeting, everybody's input be ideal, right? So.
The only, it would be useful to have evaluation criteria up front.
Yeah.
But that might also discourage bidders though, if they want to bid on something that doesn't 100% meet.
Well, I don't know
Criteria,
if
so-
you've been to East Hampton, there's a huge factory that was abandoned and now it's populated with a gym, restaurants, professional offices, and it's just, and everything is within the existing beams and they've left a lot of the machinery in place. I can get the name of that. I've seen it because I've gone up there. It's really an interesting use because you walk in and it's clearly a factory. But they made partitions within the factory and created all these little spaces and it's pretty much full. So there are ways to make it work. Just depends on who.
Here's a bizarre aside. It's an aside, but I went up to Massmoga, speaking of buildings, and I didn't go in the museum. I've been there a lot. I just stayed outside and just looked at it. With the river, the little stream running through it, and you're looking at the light and the play and the beauty. And I was looking at corners and how things met. I can just imagine people walking down the river walk or walking around. I mean, it just is something that in and of itself, that building, all of a sudden you're reframing or animating the building alone. So anyway, I just think it's
I agree. I
Rich
go to
idea.
Massimoka a lot just for that purpose as well. Just those old, mill building. I think that's what keeps me in Housatonic, the old,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term, like grittiness of the mills, and just that feeling and some of the artwork at Massimoka is above me, but just the building and the way they restored it and just walking around in there, so.
And there are also things that when you're looking out a window, they say what was once here,
Right.
and I mean, you get the whole history layered while you're doing this thing. It's great.
So speaking of North Adams, I mean, Greylock Works up there is also similar.
Oh, that's
project,
fun.
yeah.
I think you need to do a fountain
A fountain?
from the well.
Some sort of water feature, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not to steer us on a different thing, but one of our first times we were doing a pass at this, it was like, well, what if nothing does happen, what could happen here? And it was like, a park with that one wall staying, and then
A big
when there
fountain.
was like a water fountain or something.
Yeah.
Water for kids to play in or something.
That's that water. It's
Yeah.
400 gallons a minute, so you've gotta
The
let
serious
it
amount
flow.
of water. Yeah.
It would be lovely to have a little museum or something, or some place to celebrate the history of the spaces up there. And what was there before and when. I mean, that would be critical at some point.
But is that also an option if a developer isn't on the near term horizon? Should it be considered of knocking down portions of the building, keeping the nice masonry and having it be an open plaza for 4 seasons with a water feature that would attract many people as well and activate the spaces that possibly is that a last option that could be considered? I mean,
I pitched to the owners of the Searle School to do that with the gym then. Because the rest of the building was crap, but those walls were still there, and those windows were really nice.
Yeah.
So if you just had that as an outdoor room with grass on the ground, it could be an awesome event space.
Yeah.
All of these tents that we see next to the railroad tracks and weddings and birthday parties and whatever else.
Mhm.
So it could be, I mean, that would be a
Gosh
great
knows
spot.
it. If
Fall
building
else
prices
fails.
continue
Right.
Continue to go up and nothing, can't make anything work financially, that would be a shame, but.
But that could, it could bring in revenue for somebody, and it could also be a nice public amenity,
Yeah.
especially with that gushing water in there.
First, we have to solve the water problem,
It's,
the Housatonic water problem.
So what do you need from us before you leave? I mean,
Just, these ideas are fantastic, just your reaction to these ideas. Is it possible, if a developer came with this kind of a plan to you, saying, could we do this, would you say yes, or maybe, or no? Which is hard to do at this point, but we're just trying to get a sense of whether these are in the realm of possibility.
I'm not sure penthouses is a good. And it's hard enough to sell anything in Housatonic because of the water. Penthouses are probably.
Well, assuming the water problem is resolved, I mean, we all have to think that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
When we say penthouse, we just mean the top apartments, it doesn't mean it's gonna be luxury penthouse. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
We need a developer first.
Yeah, somebody has to adopt this.
I would say though, that if you, just to counter Jonathan a little bit, I think if you looked at the market there and you saw how long places stayed on the market, they move pretty quickly now. So that, and driving around now, there's a lot of houses getting worked on and restored, so the people aren't afraid to invest it. Yes, does the water situation need to be solved? Definitely, but I do feel that people are willing to invest in Housatonic as well, so.
No, I was gonna say that overall, the shape of the thing. And having that be an open courtyard, I think would be fantastic,
yeah,
not covered. And then the ground floor, and to think about it beyond the building, I
Yeah.
think. How many more people would love to be able to go there and have a drink?
that's a big,
Do yoga right next to the river or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
All right, anything else?
thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
Yeah,
right,
good luck.
no,
That's
No,
right
keep
there.
coming back.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, next time.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to our next item, battery energy storage systems, a discussion of the emerging land use in the town's land use and regulatory approach.
I suggest we wait until Brandy comes back. Wasn't this something she really wanted to talk about?
I'm not sure that we're gonna discuss much. I think maybe you're just gonna introduce it and then we're gonna take it up at the meeting or.
Yeah, maybe it is something I think Brandy and Jeremy will want to participate
Sure.
as well. I did send to the board, and I'm happy to send it out. The American Planning Association did issue a zoning practice report about a year ago, and I sent it on. It talks about what battery energy storage systems are, BESS.
And it was very complicated because there are different types of batteries and
Different types of batteries, different mixes of chemicals.
6 or
used
7,
in batteries, some types of, I think that, it's often cited as concerns with these is, possibility for basically runaway combustion and fires, and of course, the bigger the battery, the worse it can get.
Yeah.
The report talked about how some different types of batteries react differently than others. And it did talk about different sizes of batteries, whether it's something in a residential house that, you know, homeowners may have solar panels and a battery in the basement of the house. Either completely off grid or in a power failure. That's one very small, different type of battery than something that could run an entire commercial building versus something that could run a large building versus something that is actually a utility scale, local grid backup. You know, imagine something that could power Great Barrington if the grid went down and it was needed for a period of time to keep the hospital running or the sewer plant running or something. So different scales of batteries, different types of batteries, and of course, different ways to regulate the types and scales of the battery systems. So that's essentially what the report discusses. It gives that background, it gives some considerations for land use regulations, the small to the large, the residential to utility. It talks about involving the NFPA, the National Fire Protection Standards, and things like that. So it does discuss some of those commonly held concerns and ways to address that. So that's a quick summary of what I said to the board. I haven't dug into whether other towns in Massachusetts have embraced these sorts of things at a utility scale. I think some towns have regulated residential scale. I think possibly Pittsfield has a regulation to allow small residential scale. But I'm not sure if they touched on large scale batteries or not. So it's an emerging technology, certainly something that could be useful for individual homeowners and property owners, businesses, but also could be useful for, you know, just local power resiliency in emergency situations.
How do you see that being used by the town?
Essentially,
The last thing you just basically mentioned.
essentially, they function as backup power. It's a way to store electricity and feed it out when you know, when the grid has gone down or when natural gas or some other plant has gone offline. So, you know, in the same way, if you have a hydroelectric dam and, you know, all that water is pent up, you know, you can let it through the turbines and generate power. Picture the battery energy as the reservoir, and you let the energy out when you need it. So that's what some municipalities and small scale grid operators use them for. They have solar panels or other ways of generating power, storing power, and using the power at peak times when needed, or when there is no other alternative.
Is the state gonna mandate that we modify our zoning to accommodate this the way they did with solar panels?
I don't know. I don't know that yet.
Is that why we're looking at it or thinking about it or?
It was brought up by two of the members to discuss.
It's brought up at BRPC as well, and you know, the interest, I think, is from even the large scale grid. You know, to create storage so they don't have to back up to their gas powered generators on when the sun's down. But there's a lot of risk involved because it's not a benign technology, so you know, even if it's just a matter of training the fire department to be able to handle it. So the question is, where should they be sited? Should they be sited in you know, in agricultural areas, or should they be restricted to industrial zones, or should they be restricted, can they be allowed in solar panel installations? Could we allow a battery storage system to be put in place at Eisner School to store their energy? Right now, I don't know that it's permitted in town at all, because as a primary use, because it's not in our bylaws, so. Somebody came and said they wanted to build a big battery storage facility, we wouldn't be able to do that, so. But I think the demand is gonna come down, it's a question of whether the town wants to permit it on the one hand and regulate it on the other, so the accessory use.
Yeah, for an individual homeowner, you know, maybe it's already an accessory use, you know, big household battery in the garage, and maybe that's now customarily incidental to a residential use.
Yeah, I think you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, we
You
had
could scale up.
I was at a house,
Yeah.
you know, the other day where they had two big Tesla batteries to.
Right, hanging on the wall.
Right, but as you scale up, it's a different.
Yeah, it is different. concern.
So how's that by way of introduction?
It's a good introduction, Chris.
Thanks.
If we have no other questions, I'll move on to the next item.
Go for it.
Board subcommittee updates, Jackie, anything?
None.
Adam? I have nothing either, so we move on to citizens speak. Do we have any citizens? Any voices, Claudia?
Yeah, Claudia Shapiro, 78 Egremont Plain Road. So I'm asking to be included on the Open Space Recreation Plan Committee. Regardless of what Jovenia said, she requested that someone be on the committee who has never, ever attended a planning board meeting. And I also have another question. The special permit hearing that this board's gonna be granting a sign permit for. We're having a meeting on the 11th in conjunction with the select board. What's that permit about?
I haven't yet briefed the board, so thank you. We just issued the advertisement today, I think. There's an application in front of the select board for moderate impact home occupation. This is 250 Maple Ave. R2 zone, looking to do a yoga wellness studio. So it's not a low impact home occupation, which is like maybe one person other than the person who lives there, maybe you have one employee. So I think it's anticipating more people coming and going than a low impact. So moderate impact home occupation needs a select board special permit in the R2 zone. And they're seeking to have a sign, a freestanding sign on the road that would say, you know, this is a yoga business, and a freestanding sign for a business in a residential zone needs a special permit from the planning board. So I had a quick discussion with the planning board chair and the select board chair, and we said, okay, maybe we can do this as a joint hearing on Monday, August 11th, where both boards hear the application at once. You have to make your own decisions on your own jurisdictional areas. So that's what that's.
So the baseball in Maple started out as a home occupation. And they don't live there anymore, so, but it's still. It's a commercial use there. So is that similar to what you're thinking?
I don't know.
It's not that,
What the day
it's
spa
not that
is.
location. I don't know what the address is there.
You're talking about the existing day spa, that's not where the proposal is.
Okay.
And I don't know how it differs from the proposal.
And my last comment is, and I understand that you have postponed the master plan until next year. Am I correct about that?
I don't know that we said next year, but certainly until we get a town manager, so we have more of Chris's time.
Well, I'm asking again to be
Part of it.
included in that committee also, both of those committees, and I hope that I'm respected enough to.
All right, Michelle's got something. Okay, hey, Michelle.
You're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
That's a first.
Okay, we can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Michelle Lubert, 70 Division Street. Hi, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. I didn't want to interrupt the conversation regarding Cook's Garage and the plans for it. But Jonathan hit a nail on the head. And rarely do I agree with Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. About Housatonic water. I'm a resident of Housatonic, born and raised in Housatonic. Know Cook's Garage really well. I very much appreciate the work that went on. The having apartments in some of the mill buildings there, I think would be a great idea. But the residents of Housatonic, such as myself and my husband, we're horribly stressed out over our water source. And we're talking about building these apartments, a penthouse, an atrium, a river walk, and we don't even have healthy water. I think the first priority should be health and safety above everything else. And next month, our rates are going up even higher. A second thing that is stressing my husband and I out as well is down the road, there's going to be PCB cleanup up there. I don't know whether people are going to be scrambling to live in Housatonic during a PCB cleanup. So my husband was sitting with me while we were watching the presentation. And the only thing I said was, like, for our house, my husband and I, we go, wouldn't it be great if we did this, did that? Then we check reality. Is it really feasible to do this or whatever? And although I appreciate the dreamscape of the plan, you got to look at what's going on around it. And I think what we should do is resolve some issues in Housatonic first before we go on. I think the building should be cared for so it doesn't collapse and everything. But Jonathan, thank you for bringing that up because I was thinking about the same thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question, it's okay.
Sure.
So, Chris, you had mentioned about the water. You didn't say it was contaminated, but is the water in Cook's Garage? Is it, you said it wasn't potable, it's not drinkable?
It's, you could drink it individually, yes. It's actually, we had tests done on it. We had some EPA funding to look at any hazardous materials in the building and other things, underground storage tanks. They also tested the water to see, the composition of it, et cetera. It's really clean and.
That's why I asked, because I know a little bit about the water in Housatonic. It's actually, they say, some of the purest water ever. The
results were really great, but it couldn't be a public water supply.
Well, I understand that.
That's,
You said
that's
that
what I mean,
you would
not,
have to own half the town.
yeah, I shouldn't have said potable, so.
Well,
'cause
it's
you
fine, but my.
Well, you can't sell it as popular.
I'd like to make another.
couldn't sell it or
Use it, yeah, commercially.
Yeah, just like to make another point, so the water pressure in Cook's Garage is actually insane. So maybe a consideration for the lack of water pressure from the Housatonic Water Works and some type of fire suppressant might be
Yeah, that, they did mention that was a good
It's a
idea.
very,
'Cause
that was
it's-
very, very good. I know Michelle complains about her lawn ornament hydrant in front of her house and the pressure
Yeah.
and so.
Yeah. I think the,
Just food for thought.
I think the Houstonic school, I have to look if they put on-site storage in for sprinklers in the building, but this would easily sprinkle the building. Yeah. So it's-
That was a million. I think Michelle's got one more thing she'd like to share with us. Michelle, I think you're ready to go.
Makes you shine. Okay.
Can you hear me, Michelle Lubert? I just wanted, what Claudia just said, I just want to clarify. Michelle isn't complaining about just the fire hydrant in front of the house. It's been known in Housatonic there isn't adequate water pressure for fire safety.
Yeah.
And going back to my original comment, the first priority for any of our boards and committees should be the health and safety of a community. And that's compromised here in Housatonic. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, for that, any objection, I'll adjourn the meeting 7:20 or 7:24.